What's up, Bronco Nation? I'm Actionero.
And I'm Kyron Hardnett.
And this is the Bronco Talks podcast.
Today we have a special episode. We have Evelyn Deroche. She was here in November. Was that?
Yeah.
She was here in November for the swim podcast. And she's back. And Max is going to explain what she's going to be speaking with us about today.
For those of you who don't know, this week at DHS is Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Week. So, Evelyn here does a lot of work with suicide prevention. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today.
Okay, so let's start off. What is the program called that you worked with where you were able to learn a lot about how to handle things such as mental health?
Okay, so this summer I did a program called Assist, which is the same training program that they give the 988 suicide hotline operators. It's like the official first responder suicide prevention training. And it's a free training. They have it at high schools across the state. And I decided I wanted to know how to help and know more because suicide's affected, me and my family personally.
Right. Yeah.
So, I thought it was something that would always be useful and I really wanted to do. So I signed up and I took the course, and it's a 16-hour course.
Wow.
So it was 2 days, 16 hours. It's a whole 8-hour day each time. It's a lot. It's very intense. And really the goal is just learning how to talk to someone who is considering suicide and keep them safe.
Okay, and you spoke on, I was going to ask you why you wanted to do it, but I really like that you opened up about that. I've had some of that within my own life too, so it's something, I'm actually interested. I was asking you earlier, I was asking her for the website, y'all. It was to do research, but I also wanted to see if I can do it. I think it'd be really cool.
It's free. I can give you a contact. I can share some information about it later. They do have free ones every year, so.
So have you, do you think after doing the course that you've looked at things different and your outlook on things are completely different?
Absolutely. The course, so I'm not allowed to say too much about it because there's parts of it that you can't know before you start.
Sorry.
Which is interesting. No, it's fine. But the course, the way it's set up is you really get into the mental space of what it's like to feel suicidal and like there's no more hope, and that way you can understand and connect with that person because it's all about connection,
right? Exactly,
really,
yeah.
and just making a connection with them that makes them, you find a reason why they should still be here. That's the point, is to find whatever reason that is.
Right.
It could be really simple. It could be more complicated. And the course really trains you on how to find that reason. So it was really different to get into the headspace of what would it be like, to be thinking of suicide. And there was you have to do some role play and pretend to give counsel to someone who's thinking of suicide. And so it's
very intense.
It's intense and emotional.
Yeah.
It was a lot. I was exhausted. But it's so worth it. There is a simpler one about just how to talk about suicide, which is only, I think it's half of a day, and it's called Safe Talk. It's put on by the same people. It's also free, and that one's, I think, a little bit less emotionally intense.
Yeah, it's a little,
just
maybe a start, and then you can easily assist.
Yeah.
So, do you think in the future that you'd ever, I know you want to fly planes. You talked about that on the other podcast, but do you think you'd ever ease into therapy or things like that, and to help in a way, or just even starting small programs like Assist?
I'm a big fan of the idea. I would love to figure out a way to incorporate that type of stuff into flying, because flying is my passion, but also I like helping people. And specifically I've been trained I can help people in this way that not a lot of people can. But I think it's important, and I think that'll come up wherever I am in life, because it trains you how to identify someone who's thinking of suicide. So in any aspect of my life, if I find someone I can help them, get the help that they need.
Right.
Um,
I think that's so nice that because a lot in our generation is way better. Like I've heard stories from like older family members who talk about how mental health was not ever even thought of.
no,
If you were have y'all seen movies where like someone will like literally mess up the alphabet and now like they're calling them bad names and they're being sent to like the crazy people house they call them in like those type of movies. Have you seen that?
No.
I don't think I've seen that in a movie, but yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
definitely
like
was
it
treated
was
a lot
yeah, it was
differently back
treated
then.
way differently, and I think that I'm
Mhm.
happy that our generation is taking it more seriously and
Mhm.
assessing that this is something that we need to look into, something that we need to be willing to face because
Yeah.
it's something that's a real problem. And
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know, I think it's great that you're like you were just saying, like you want to find, like you have to like seek it out yourself because some people won't speak up, and people have their personal reasons for maybe not wanting to speak up, but I'm glad
It's
that you're doing that.
it's difficult. It's a hard thing to speak on. I've had some practice with it. The guy who trained me, Mr. Ken Brown,
Mm-hmm.
he also started a program for peer intervention in schools. So in his school it's Sam Houston High School down in Lake Charles
Okay,
area.
yeah.
In their school they have assist trained like juniors and seniors who will they'll like sit in the library, and if you
Right.
need to talk,
You can,
they're
yeah.
trained and they can
Oh, I love
talk
that
to
so
you and
much.
determine if you just need someone to talk to about this or if it's a serious problem that they need to
Right.
take to the school counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So he's had me, when he's presented about his program, he's had me talk about assist a couple times. So it's been interesting,
Mm-hmm.
getting to learn how to speak about this and
Yeah.
how to present this to more people and spread the word about it. So
Yeah. I'd say it's hard. Like I have been in situations where I've had to help people through those types of things, and I really think everyone should eventually learn. People who are passionate about it should learn how to because you know, what do you say? This is not something that your parents teach you how to pay for things, your parents teach you how to have manners and all that stuff. This is not something that, is like in the book. So yeah, let me make sure I'm in the parent book. So it is
How should you approach somebody who's saying those kinds of things?
so if you identify someone who's having those thoughts, which would mostly be people, if you see like someone you've known your whole life and they've always loved, say like band, and they stop going to practices and their grades are slipping and they just want to stay home, and it's not just them being overwhelmed, it's more than that, and you can tell it's more than that. That's a big sign. Them giving away their stuff. So like if you've seen that type of, quitting band, quitting a sport, quitting any activity, theater, whatever that they've loved, and if you see them, giving away stuff, like if their most treasured possession, if they give it to you, that's another big warning sign.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah,
I think I know
that's
that.
one of the ones I learned in the program. So if you've found someone that you're worried about it, and even if they're not, if you're worried about it, the biggest thing that you can do is ask them just straight to their face, are you thinking of killing yourself? Are you contemplating suicide?
Right, yeah.
Say the words.
Mm-hmm.
Studies have proven that's not going to make them, if they weren't thinking about suicide before, that's not going to make them start
Right,
thinking
yeah.
about suicide. That's not going to increase their chance. It's only going to decrease it, because that lets them know that you're okay with talking about something like that.
Right, exactly.
It lets them know that you're okay with talking about something that heavy and, figuring out how to get them help.
Right, yeah.
That's not necessarily your job. We're not school counselors. We're
exactly.
not, doctors, or, law enforcement, or anyone who can truly help, but letting them know that you're willing to talk about this is such a big thing.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are willing to talk about it, and so it feels so isolating. It feels like they're alone, but they're not. Everybody struggles, and just going to them and saying, hey, I see what you're struggling with, is such a big important part of this.
So a lot of people deal with mental health, but let's get down to what is mental health. Like,
what is mental health? It's a lot of things. Mental health changes. That's the biggest thing I'm going to say about mental health changes. It is not a permanent situation. You can be fine, and then you can not be fine, but then you'll probably be okay again. It's never a set, even like people with depression, there's episodes. It changes. It's not constant if you're getting the right help.
Right, exactly.
It can be constant, and that's where, suicide comes in if something's been persisting for so long. And that's where, medical professionals will come in and deal with it and figure out a way to get back to a mentally healthy state, which is different for everyone, and it changes. And even like throughout the day, you can go through a switch in like your mental health state. Like you can start the day off in a worse state than you end up in, or the reverse is also true. So it's just really, mental health is unique to each individual person at a different time. It's going to change, and that's totally normal and okay. And it's just about realizing that it's okay to feel sad, or to feel angry, or to have your mental health state change. It's okay, because it's not permanent.
Exactly. Okay. So, and this is something I deal with. I've been. You probably see me fidgeting with it. I've had a really anxious week. I don't know why. And like you were just saying that, it just happens. Sometimes it's like it's not forever, but sometimes it just happens. And I've had a very anxious week. And I can't explain why, but this is how it works. So, how do you think people with anxiety and things like that could better deal with it and things like
that? It's also different for everyone. Really, with anxiety, finding the source of it and understanding where it's coming from is a big part of it. Understanding if this is something that's, an outside factor that's stressing you out, like a job interview or a school test, or if it's just stress that you don't know where it's coming from, so that it's probably, not for a specific reason. And that's a different kind of stress, and that you might need to figure out a different way to handle it. If it's just a test or something, an outside factor going on with your life, that factor is going to end, and then you won't be stressed about it anymore, right? And you can deal with that stress by like getting away from it. If it's a big test, you're worried about taking a break from studying about it, from studying, taking a break from studying for it, or just allowing yourself, to take breaks from whatever that is. Or if it's something constant, then you might need to, see a counselor or a therapist and see how to address, what the stress is that you can't identify.
I think that I saw. Have y'all watched Inside Out too? I think it's so beautiful I knew they were gonna make Riley age in it. If y'all haven't seen Inside Out is basically a movie. It's a Pixar Disney movie, and basically a girl, Riley, is like, she's a kid, and like we go into her head and we see her like emotions. There's disgust, fear, anger, sadness, and joy in the first movie. So those are her emotions. But then in the second movie, they make it to where she's a teenager, because that's when a lot of these things kick in. But one of the emotions that she had that was new was anxiety, and I loved how they did it. It felt really accurate and like relatable, and like a lot in the movie, anxiety a lot of the times was like, I have to do this, there's this, and that's what anxiety is. And when it came down to one of the scenes where anxiety was basically Riley, the kid, was basically having a panic attack, but anxiety was in there going crazy. What it came down to was, like you said, just taking a step away from it, breathing, and just taking a step away. And I really like how the movie did. I was worried that they were gonna do it wrong, because it's something you can get it wrong. You can make it something that's not.
It seems like
but
they did their research.
They did their research, and they really did a good job. So
I really that portrayal in the movie too.
I really did.
Relatable.
You mentioned stepping away from it.
Yes.
What about those of us, like athletes or people who have to go to rehearsals every day? About those things that we can't step away from, or else we'll just fall behind.
For falling behind, I've been an athlete. I've been in theater. So I'm just gonna share what's worked best for me, I guess,
Mhm.
because like I said, everyone's different and your situations are all different. So, but for me, it's if it's something athletic like a swim meet that I'm stressed about, that's way far in the future. That I'm not going to get to stop stressing about it, and I have to go to practice every day, and that's going to keep reminding me. It's going to be constant for a little while.
Right.
And I have to be there, and I can't get around it. I can't take a step back. I just try to refocus. Switch my focus on what's the stressful part to why I'm thankful that I get to be in the pool. Why I'm thankful that I get to be in this play. Why I'm thankful that something I can be thankful for in that situation. And just switching the way I'm thinking about it can help it sometimes, even if I can't step away. Does that make sense? And
Yeah, I
you
get
can't be
that,
thankful for everything,
Right. Yeah.
but there is some part of your life that you can be thankful for always, I think.
Yeah.
So if you just switch and try to think about, it might not even be related to swim. It might be like you're at swim practice, but you're thinking about how you're thankful for your best friend, or how you're thankful for, the dinner that your parents are going to cook for you, or your sister, or something that you can find to be thankful for. It might help distract you.
Yeah.
And that works for me. It might not work for everyone. Like I said, if it's something you consistently struggle with, seeing a counselor or a therapist about it, they know a ton of strategies.
Yeah.
And they will be able to find the best one for you.
Yeah.
I use that too. Like I do. I don't verbally say it, but like I'll sit there and like something will happen. Like my mom will say a funny joke, or my twin brother will do something dumb, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be okay. I have them, and everything's gonna be fine. Like, I think I get reminded. So I don't ever really think about it, but I allow the day to go on, and I'm like, you know what? It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. Yep.
So, and that's what I think. And I wanted to touch on how, and this is not gonna come off wrong, but it's not targeted at anyone. But I want to touch on how, like, how do you think other people affect people's mental health, and why it's important that, because there's like bullies and things like that. So why do you think it's important that?
Yeah. Those relationships where it's like someone else is affecting your mental health, those are really complicated.
Right. Yeah.
Of course.
They really are.
Not targeted at anyone, but just some people don't get along.
Right.
They don't. They'll never get along. They'll never interact well together. And you can't always avoid them. Like sometimes they're in your classes, and there's nothing you can really do about it. I think really just verbalizing a decision to them and to your teachers and to whoever else knows about the situation, that you're gonna step away, and you're not gonna interact, and it's not you trying to be rude, it's you trying to take care of yourself.
Yes, put you first.
Like, don't be rude about it, but like if someone's really, if what they're doing is gonna make you, like they're bullying you, you have to let someone else know, and let someone else know that this interaction's not going to continue. Either you're going to stop talking to them, or you're going to remove yourself from contact with them. Like, staying in contact with someone who's hurting your mental health without addressing it, without letting someone else know, is never going to be good for you. Let someone else know. Let them know what they're doing. They don't always know what they're doing. So speak to them, speak to someone else, your parents, a guardian, the teacher, whoever. And there's probably going to be something you can do to either, you won't have to see them anymore, or, now that they know about it, they'll change, or something can change about the situation if you talk to people about it. If you don't talk to anyone about it, it's probably just going to keep happening.
I want to call you out on this, Max. I was just yelling at him. That was 2 days ago, right? Whenever your body was,
Yes.
I yelled at him, and I said, you need to be more selfish, because he had so many reasons. So he was like having like a kind of health.
Okay.
Yeah, he needs to explain what was happening.
So, I was just sitting in biology class, and then my back started tweaking out, and then my chest started hurting really bad, and I just went throughout the day, And then by Spanish class, the pain had shifted from my back into my chest. So like every time I would move, I'd have like muscle spasms and my neck would go like that. And it's still happening, but I'm taking ibuprofen. So
Okay.
anyways, that was just a situation.
And I was upset because through the whole situation, even after, because at first he's a runner, so he's like, oh, I gotta run. I'm like, Max, please, for a
I had a
change,
meet the next day.
Yeah, he had a meet, and I'm like, and I said, please be selfish. I said, put you first for this change, and he had all these reasons to not. And even he was at the ER, and he texted me. He says, I just feel bad for making he said, I feel bad for making you and Amelia. He's talking to a girl named Amelia Dupree. And he was like, I feel bad for making y'all worry. And I'm just like, I said, Max, it's about you. Like, let this moment be for you. And
you can be selfish sometimes. Not saying all the time.
Yeah, not that.
Don't take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But do prioritize your health.
Yeah.
And your mental health. Mental health is part of your overall health, part of your physical health. You know, you're not going to be healthy if you're not mentally healthy.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You know, we don't walk around with broken legs. Why would you let yourself walk around in a bad state of mental health?
Yeah. Max, hello. I was you should have seen. I was like literally so stressed out, and like I got so mad because we were trying to record a promo for this episode actually, and I'm like, Max, no, we're gonna record another day, like because he like also like he was like saying that his legs were hurting. Like I think he was walking a little weird too. So I was like, I said, Max, like let's not. I'm like, no, like this is just sit for a second, and he would not give in. We literally recorded it. We're gonna have to re-record it for sure because
I liked it. Well, we had to jump down from this ledge thing. We didn't have to. I was just being extra.
Yeah, we jumped from like a little bench and like we were trying to
every
be like,
time
what's up, Bronco?
It hurt
so bad. Maybe we should
I
record
thought
that.
it was cool though.
It looked cool.
Let's shift the conversation a little bit. Let's get back to suicide prevention and stuff. Okay. There's a lot of misconceptions about suicide and mental health and stuff. Not and stuff. I keep using that.
Just suicide and mental health.
Suicide and mental health.
There you go.
Are there any myths or anything like that you'd like to touch on?
Myths. The biggest one, of course, which I think I might have mentioned earlier, but talking about suicide does not increase someone's chance of, of suicide. It's not gonna make them more at risk. Talking about suicide does the opposite. It lets them know that you care and that you're willing to talk about this, and that you know what's going on. Just having someone that knows what's going on can be, incredibly different. Like the bullying situation, having someone that knows what's going on can change the whole situation. So just having someone that knows can change things. And more on that, having someone that knows, if your friend tells you that, they're feeling suicidal and you're worried about hurting their feelings by going to a trusted adult or a counselor, that's also something that gets thrown around, like, what if I make them upset?
Right. Yeah.
But really with that, you are just trying to help them stay safe.
Exactly.
And their safety should take priority in that situation. So if they're unsafe, you need to tell an adult. You need to tell a counselor. It's about safety. So those two things kind of go hand in hand. Talking about suicide does not increase that risk. And, if you're worried about hurting their feelings because you're going to go to someone and that's going to make them upset, if they're unsafe, you have to go to someone.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's going to be safe for them in the long run. And if you care about them, you want to keep them safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say those two are pretty big.
One I have is and I don't know exactly why it's this way, but I feel like a lot of times in the Black community, it's looked at as a bad thing, and I wish it wasn't always that way, because it's not. It doesn't have to be bad. And like I said earlier, it's the older generations in general, but I think it's also passing down a lot to like our generation in general, but a lot of in the Black community as well. And I don't really know why it's like that. I just wish that it wasn't like that, and that it wasn't like
there is such a stigma
yeah,
around
so like
it.
It's like only I hate to say it, only white people are like, and I'm like, no, that's not what this is. This is something that everybody gets anxiety. Everybody feels like everybody has these things. So I wish that it wasn't seen.
Yep. There is a big stigma around, especially the Black community.
Yeah.
They talked about that in the training, the different, races, and how the risk for suicide does change because of how much it's stigmatized in different races.
Exactly.
So it's a factor, it's a thing, and it needs to be talked about more, I think.
Okay, so as we close out today, what do you want to close out with by saying?
I just, I want people to know that the biggest thing with mental health and suicide prevention is talking to people, because there are people that care. Like me, I got, suicide prevention trained. You guys are here doing this mental health week. There are people that care about you, and your safety and your mental health. So, talk to people so that they know the situation.
Right, yeah.
Because, there are people out there that care about you and that want you here.
Exactly.
If you don't know who to talk to, I'm a great person to talk to. Your counselor's a great person to talk to. Your parents.
Yeah.
Just the biggest thing is just let people know what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Because nobody can help if they don't know what's happening.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we want to know what's happening. You might think, I don't want to burden, my mom or my counselor or my teacher, whoever it is that you're thinking of talking to. You might think, oh, I don't want to burden them with this. But they're not going to see it as a burden.
Exactly.
The only person who's seeing that as a burden is you, because of, it's such a burden on you, and you think that it's going to be such a burden on everyone else, but they only want to help you.
Exactly.
They're not going to see it as, oh no, I have to go take care of you. No, they're going to want to take care of you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, just please go and talk to someone, because you matter, and there are people out there who want to keep you safe.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Evelyn. I'm going to give you a hug. I feel like
Oh,
you're like really making an impact on the world, and it's wonderful.
Oh.
I'm Kyron.
I'm Max. Wait. I'm sorry. I have something else to talk about.
Oh, you have something else?
Thank you to the Joe Burrow Foundation for the $1,000 grant. That is part of the reason we're doing this whole episode. Also, most of the time, these situations where you're feeling fatigued in life, they're just impermanent. So just keep pushing and talk to the ones who love you, or Evelyn here, who's trained,
or a school counselor, or our social workers,
yes,
teachers, anybody.
Thank you so much, listeners. This was a very important episode, and we'll see you next time.